Attention, you're listening to The Todd Huff Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk and education. Be advised, the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. And now, coming to you from the Full Suite Wealth Studios, here's your conservative but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Friends, it is Friday, and I know there's a lot of heavy things out there. I actually want to spend some time talking a little bit today about something that is a little bit lighter, maybe. That would be the Democrats', process, where things stand with their presidential candidates for 2028, which is not that far away, my friends. We're going to see campaigns starting to move forward here in the not too distant future. We still have a little bit of time, but of course, that's out there, and I want to talk about it. There's polling out, and I'm going to read for you some names that are at the top of the list. In fact, one poll has somebody's name at the top of the list that some of you are not going to believe when I read it to you. So we'll get to that today, my friends. And of course, we'll hit on other things along the way undoubtedly as well. If you want to be a part of the discussion, share your thoughts and opinions and direct where we go on this program, you are free to do that. I welcome you. You can text you can text whatever word you want to 317-785-1030, 317-785-1030, or email Todd at toddhuffshow.com. Friends, if you're dealing with discomfort or just tired of living off of prescription medications and managing the side effects, you are not alone. A lot of folks are looking for something natural they can trust. That's why I want you to check out Christopher's Organic Botanicals, family-run, natural kratom company rooted in truth, tradition, and transparency. They partner directly with farmers in Indonesia. They lab test everything before it ever reaches your hands. No hype, no synthetics, no funny business, just the real deal done right. So, the horror stories that you've heard about kratom, which you undoubtedly have heard some, those come from shady sellers who are providing synthetic garbage to their customers, to the marketplace, and it isn't even real kratom. Real kratom is tested, it's responsibly sourced, it is not a synthetic. So, do your research. Once you're comfortable, start with their Kratom Starter Pack. Use coupon code ToddHuff, first and last name, by the way. You will save 10%. Again, coupon code ToddHuff at Christopher'sOrganicBotanicals.com. That's Christopher'sOrganicBotanicals.com. Truth, tradition, transparency. Okay. I want to start by, there's two things I want to make sure that I get to. And yes, I know that there's, of course, Trump's meeting with Xi Jinping in China. There's some developments there, some tensions over Taiwan, maybe even threats or veiled threats made by Xi to the United States about Taiwan and all that stuff that's happening. I know Dr. Fauci there was a testimony in Congress yesterday where a CIA whistleblower confirmed that Dr. Fauci had been involved in a COVID-19 cover-up, which, listen, I think that's not shocking news. I'm just telling you the things that are out there, but I want to spend time talking about the political future here in this great nation, my friends. Let's start here. Headline in Breitbart. Are you ready for this? This sounds like the beginning of a comedy sketch, of something satirical, of maybe a really bad joke. But I'm going to read this. Headline at Breitbart.com. Poll shows AOC leading field of potential 2028 Democrat candidates. AOC, that's right. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is leading in one poll, leading who Democrats want to see as their presidential candidate here in 2 years. So here we go. A recent Atlas Intel poll found far-left rep Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democratic, should say socialist, should say communist, from New York, leading the potential crowd of 2028 presidential candidates. Unlike other recent surveys that showed failed presidential candidate Kamala Harris as the fan favorite, this survey had the squad member leading the pack with 26%. So 1 in 4 Democrats want AOC to be their party's nominee in 2028. I continue here. He continues here. This is written by Hannah Knudsen at Breitbart. Former Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, see how I get that correct, he taught me how to say that properly, came in second place with 22.4%, followed by 21.2% who chose California Governor Gavin Newsom. So we've got AOC, Pete Buttigieg, and Gavin Newsom rounding out, according to this particular poll, which is not what most polls are finding, but I think it's worth noting here because AOC, who's been rumored to have presidential ambitions, or at least people who want her to have presidential ambitions, she's leading in this particular poll. Harris, by the way, in this poll, in this Atlas Intel poll that I'm referencing here, that Breitbart is referencing in their article, came in a distant fourth place with 12.9% support, with all other potential candidates falling into the single digits. Ocasio-Cortez, it says here, has not said if she plans to run for president, and many are urging her to gun for Senator Chuck Schumer's seat. However, she recently told David Axelrod that her ambition to change is to change this country. In fact, I've got a clip here. It's a little bit lengthy, but this is David Axelrod. You know David Axelrod. He's sitting down with AOC at some... she's sitting on stage with him. He's got a banner in the background that says empowering... Well, there's a vase blocking, or a pitcher of water. Empowering some sort of action. So they're at this event. They're on stage. David Axelrod is asking AOC about her presidential ambitions and so forth. I just want you to listen to this exchange between he and AOC. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
But last thing before we go to the students, because I would be drawn and quartered if I did not.
This was in Chicago, by the way.
There are a lot of people who would like you to run for president in 2028.
Oh, here comes the applause. Oh, yeah. Cheering. Oh, yes.
Apparently, some of them are here.
Students.
And there are people who, there are others who would like you to run for the United States Senate. Senator Schumer's
clap
up in
for that as well.
2028.
Oh, yes. She's just grinning from ear to ear up here. This is AOC, by the way.
I don't know. It sounded like even more. Should we do it?
To New York or to other parts of the country?
How many would like AOC to stay in Congress? See,
Oh, there's some that want her to stay in Congress.
they want you to make a move.
Yeah.
What say you about all of this?
Here we go. Buckle
It's
up.
funny because in this op-ed that Jeff Bezos paid for in the Washington Post, there was this line that you had mentioned earlier about, well, as a potential 2028 contender, XYZ, And in the context of that, it was very clear this was a veiled threat, right? So the elite saying, if you want this job, you just stepped out of line.
Oh,
and we want you to know where the real power is. And it's in the modern day barons who own the Post and own the algorithms, and we'll make an example out of you. And what's funny about that is that they assume that my ambition is positional. They assume that my ambition is a title or a seat. And my ambition is way bigger than that.
Yeah.
My ambition is to change this country.
To change it. Now she'll get applause. Now just pause for a minute. I'll let the applause run out here. This, by the way, is at the University of Chicago. I just didn't know the name of the event.
Come and go.
Oh, sorry there. So she said there that her ambition is to change this country. That, of course, drew applause from the students here at the University of Chicago. But what does she want to change? This is fascinating to me. Listen, I've always found politics interesting. Well, I found the issues that we debate and discuss, worldview, the structure of government, the role of government, the reason that laws should or should not be enacted, the Constitution. I love these things. I don't, as I've shared on here before, necessarily enjoy politics. But and by that I mean I don't necessarily get into the he said, she said, this stuff. There's much bigger ideas that I want to get to. I think that we should be aware of who the charlatans are. I think we should be able to explain who the threats are to our liberty, of course, why they are threats, and all those sorts of things. But I don't get into a lot of it just bores me. If I'm being candid, I love the ideas. I like to use the news of the day to talk about the issues in a greater sense. What happens in a given day in a news cycle, in my estimation, is a springboard or a case study on how to talk about the deeper issues. I've always looked at it that way. I don't enjoy, appreciate some of the just the things that come with politics. At a certain degree, certain point in time, it's necessary, and we had better figure out how to win in the political spectrum. But part of that is communicating about these big ideas. A part of that is having a worldview that is rooted in truth and reality. And by the way, that is not at all what the radical leftist worldview is rooted in at all. Not in the slightest. In fact, it is a morally bankrupt ideology. AOC, based upon what she stands for, she is built upon her political philosophy, her candidacy, her worldview is built upon things that are absolute rubble and trash and garbage, and it is morally reprehensible. It is. And I've explained this a lot on this program. This is a recurring theme about things, again, that we're talking about here on the show. But she says here in this question that she got from David Axelrod that her ambition is not positional, meaning, listen, whether I'm a member of Congress or I'm a senator in the state of New York or I'm president of the United States, that's really not my objective. My objective, she says, is to change this country. And that draws applause from these young, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, skulls full of mush. These young students that are socialists or communists or whatever. But it never ceases to amaze me how this is such a powerful message, because it's not a message. Now, it is a code. It is a code to the people in that room. They understand who she is and presumably how she wants to change it, but not exactly. simply stating, I want to change this country. That would, for someone like me, set off alarm bells, because I understand, as I've talked about on this program, and as we will talk about on this program, maybe even more between now and July 4th of this year, which will be America's 250th birthday. This nation does not need to be fundamentally changed. If to the degree that we're talking about change, certainly there needs to be change. For example, we need to have Republicans who have backbones. We need to have Republicans in office that are not afraid, who are not afraid to be conservative. We need to have Republicans who are prepared to do whatever it takes within their power, constitutional authority, to, say, redistrict in their states, giving Republicans political advantages. We need Republicans to understand, as my friend Micah Beckwith says, what time it is in America. It is time to engage in this political fight, my friends. Well, I know many of you are, but if you're not, it's time to get engaged, because this is for a fight for the survival of our constitutional republic. I mean, she's out there saying it. She wants to change this nation. This nation was founded upon revolutionary concepts that the American people, in the wake of the American Revolution, the founders, as I've said on this program so many times before, the founders, having just led a successful revolution, winning the war against the British, they could have established themselves as the new tyrants in America, but they didn't, because they were principled. Instead, they told the people, listen, your rights come from your creator. They don't come from us. They don't come from another politician. They don't come from a king. They come from God Almighty, your creator. And you are not subjects to our subjects. You're not subject to some throne. You are an autonomous individual made in the image of God, and you can live your life as you see fit. And when we establish this government, we're not going to put together a government that is going to tell you what you can do, tell you your place in society, tell you how much you should get paid, tell you what your particular priorities are in life. We're not going to tell you any of those things. In fact, the proper way to do this and to build a country is to say it belongs to you, the people. And instead of the government telling you how you're going to behave and what you're going to do, how life is going to function in this new government, it's going to be flipped on its head. You're going to say to us, to the federal government, what responsibilities you give us. You are going to give us your consent. You are going, the founders, again, not necessarily going to be members of this government, but they said, look, the government we create needs your consent. That's why the Constitution starts with the words, we the people. We the people. We're giving you Congress or the executive branch or the judiciary. We're giving you these responsibilities, but just these. And you can do these things because you have our consent. We understand that there needs to be law and order, and that the government needs to have enough power to do what we've given it our consent to do, but not 1 ounce more should they have. Not 1 ounce of power more. They should not have that. And so we limit the power. This system was a beautiful thing. They took the time to enumerate just some, not all, of the rights that were given to us, that are given to us by our Creator. This is fundamental to this great nation. And it has been a wonderful experiment. There have been so many tremendous blessings that have been felt both here and around the globe because of the United States of America. The United States of America, because of embracing ideas that made a tremendous impact, positive impact on the world, people around that world have all benefited. A vast majority of people. The standard of living has increased. There's a lot of people who have opportunities and freedom today that they didn't have. They would not have had if it were not for the United States of America, including me, my friends, including you. We are all beneficiaries of this. The founders were not perfect. I've been through this until I'm blue in the face. I am not referring to the founders and their unwillingness to turn away from slavery in the early days. That is not part of what makes America great. In fact, that is a stain on our history. But they did provide us with an avenue whereby this could be remedied. Slavery ended. The civil rights era came, and there have been dramatic improvements. There are certainly racists out there. There always will be. That's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the greatness of America. I'm talking about the ideas and the ideals that are set forth in our founding documents, these things that radically transformed history, the lives that we have on this planet, this side of heaven. And AOC wants to change it. This should be the most terrifying words you hear a politician say. She wants to change the country. It reminds me of Barack Obama's campaign in 2008. I remember when I saw that thinking, my goodness, this is such a performative campaign. There is nothing to this. When at least, certainly there were things that he wanted to do that we know about, that many we knew about then. Sometimes he was caught on some secret recording talking to a group of people behind closed doors. So we knew what he really wanted to accomplish, but the campaign that got people to support him was hope and change. It just speaks to the emotional condition of so many people. We all want to have hope, but it depends on what our hope is in. And of course, the things that are not going the way we want them to go, we would like to see them changed. But what are those things? How do we identify them? What exactly does this politician, AOC, want to change fundamentally about this nation? We'll get into that as we continue to go through this today, my friends. But I got to pause here. It's about time for me to take a break. You've worked hard. You've made smart choices. And now it's about making sure that effort counts, not just for today, but for the future as well. Full Suite Wealth helps forward-thinking people with a coordinated approach to wealth, legacy, and legal planning, including private equity, private credit, and options strategies. They'll help you see the big picture, plan ahead, and make your success truly matter for the people you care about the most. The goal is to give you a plan that stands the test of time. So for more information, visit fullsuitewealth.com. Do that now. It's quick and easy. Fullsuitewealth.com. Build your legacy. Secure your future. Time out here for me, my friends. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friend. It should terrify you. It should send shivers down your spine when you hear someone talking about changing America. That's what AOC said that she wants to do. She wants to change America. She doesn't care where she does that, whether it's in the White House, the U.S. Senate, the House of Representatives. She wants to change this great nation. I'm going to rewind this just a couple of seconds, and you're going to hear the applause, but I ran over one of the sentences she said when she started speaking again, and so I want to play this. This, again, is AOC speaking with David Axelrod in front of a bunch of students, a bunch of communist sympathizers out there at the University of Chicago, talking about her role not just being, she's not interested in position, she's interested in fundamentally changing America, wherever that puts her. She wants to lead a movement, my friends. Dare I say, she wants to lead the revolution to change this nation into something it was never intended to be. So that being said, I'm going to resume where we left off. You'll hear a little bit of applause here as we lead back into what she's going to say here.
Presidents come and go. Senate, House seats, elected officials come and go. But single-payer health care is forever.
Not exactly how that works, but
forever. Workers' rights are forever. Women's rights, all of that. And so, anyways, a finer point to your question is that when you aren't attached, right? When you haven't been like fantasizing about being this or that since the time you were 7 years old, it is tremendously liberating, because I get to wake up every day and say, how am I going to meet the moment? And conditions change radically all the time. So I make my response less to an attachment to some positional, title or position, and working backwards from there. But I make decisions by waking up in the morning, looking out the window,
doing what's
and
right
observing
for you.
the conditions of this country, and saying, what move or what decision can I make today that is going to get us closer to that future, stronger, faster, better than yesterday?
Well, I've got some ideas, and they involve you resigning, not running for Congress, people like you, your ideology, your worldview, your politics, stepping aside immediately. If you want to get this nation where it needs to be, people like this need to be stopped politically, my friend. So what she's saying here is, look, it's not about the position to me. And people eat this stuff up. So let me remind you who we're talking to here. It is unbelievable to me how anyone can take AOC seriously. And I don't mean that as an insult to intellect or anything like that. What I mean is, given what we know about her. You know, we've talked about it on this program, but I will remind you, and you can look this up. I haven't pulled this up to talk about it today, but AOC was basically responded to, or her brother responded to, a casting call by a group of, communists called the Justice Democrats. And they basically were posting, hey, we're taking applicants for people who want to run for political office. You can send in your resume or whatever, application, whatever it was, and we'll review it. And AOC's brother, AOC was a bartender at the time. Again, nothing wrong with being a bartender. I'm just saying she's not completely lying here, but she's running with the narrative, and she's telling a story that that's all part. It's all part of a manufactured campaign of sorts, an ongoing campaign. And so the Justice Democrats put out a casting call. I kid you not. You can look this up. You can see them talking about this. Google it. AOC Justice Democrats casting call, or what, I don't know. That's what it was. Her brother saw the ad or whatever it was and responded. That's the story anyway. He filled out the application or sent it in. She was chosen. So they said, you know what? We like you. We think you can play the role. She was selected because she could play the role. Now, you can, I guess what you think the requirements were to be qualified for this role, but essentially it's not anything based upon merit. It's based upon whatever story they could tell. So they like that she's a woman. They like that she's a minority. They like that she's, some people would say she's attractive. Others think she's completely unattractive, but she's younger. Now, the things that come out of her mouth are bat crap crazy sometimes, oftentimes, but she can speak well in the sense that she's mastered the skill, I don't know, of cadence. If you just look at speaking as the art, if you don't look at the context of the words that are being spoken and just look at the cadence, the way that she can enunciate, the way that she can just speak confidently, which is sometimes mind-blowing when you think, how can you be confident given the words coming out of your mouth? But anyway, she's good at that, right? And this is what Democrats look for. I'm telling you right now, it's what political campaigns often look for on both sides. But Democrats are much better at this. Again, they value it a lot more. I'm not saying that it's a good thing, but they're better at finding candidates that are smoother or that have some sort of appeal. So again, all these things work kind of together societally. So you have people who are every day pushing a political narrative that, white conservatives are the ruination of this nation, and we need to have minorities and women in politics. And so then they find people who meet these superficial criteria, and then that is what they it's basically the only checklist or those sorts of things. Who can fit a certain physical requirement, right? They look a certain way, they're female, they're this, whatever. And they have some sort of an appeal. They're well-spoken, they're likable. I mean, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, likable people. But you get to, again, I know some people cringe when I say that, but I'm just talking about it from a purely superficial way. Barack Obama, fantastic speaker. I mean, there's no denying it. The words that he said, again, I'm not standing behind the words that he spoke. I'm just saying the art of speaking. He was masterful at it. Bill Clinton, the art of connecting personally with people and becoming charismatic and likable. He was, unmatched in his time. These sorts of things that, these are the sorts of things that a big chunk of Americans vote for. They do. And so they go and they find AOC. She checks off these boxes. Then when she's in Congress, let's not forget this either. Remember when she went to, Texas or Arizona, somewhere in the Southwest, during Trump's first term in office, she was dressed in all white. You can Google this as well. And she had her hands in her head in her hands like she was crying. And she went for a photo shoot. And she pretended like she was standing outside of cages that Trump had built to put a bunch of children of illegal aliens in, and they were being, malnourished. They didn't show the pictures of the kids, A, because it wasn't real, B, because the facility that she was at, it was, if you could see the true pictures of where she was standing at the gate and where the facility was, the facility was hundreds of yards from the gate where she was standing. You could barely see the facility that had the so-called kids in cages, and she was there. It was made up. It was fabricated. It was an act. How anyone can take anything she says seriously is beyond me. Knowing those two things alone should disqualify her for ever being taken seriously. But, my friends, people do take her seriously. One of the biggest challenges for conservatives like you is finding ways to ensure your values align with the things that you do. And that includes how you invest your money. That's why I love what the team at 4-8 Financial is doing. They specialize in biblically responsible investing. That means they screen out companies, listen to this, that do not align with your faith and your values. So you're not funding things that go completely against what you believe in. They do the heavy lifting for you. They help align your investments with your purpose and your goals. The best part is that they'll help you find out if or to what degree your current investments reflect your values. So just visit 48financial.com/Todd. Again, that's 48financial.com/Todd. Complete the quick and easy assessment there, my friends. 48 Financial, because your money should work for your values, and absolutely it should not be working against them. Time out for me, my friends. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Last segment here of the entire week. It's hard to believe, I know, but hey, that's where we are. So, been talking here about AOC wanting to fundamentally change America. Let me also jump ahead and get to this. I wanted to get to this as well. AOC is leading in one of the polls, but in most polls, the leader in the Democrat Party primary race, I guess you would say that, is none other than Kamala Harris. You remember Kamala Harris? Look, again, it is performance art, and it's bad performance art, right? I mean, we talked about AOC last segment. I don't know how anyone can take her seriously. I don't know how anyone can take Kamala seriously either. Remember when she was pretending to take a phone call on or around election time back in 2024 when she was running against Trump, and there was no one on the phone. She's holding it up to her ear, making sure people, they're recording it. Oh, thank you for your vote. And she's asking her questions. This made up person. Oh, so I really appreciate that. Talking to nobody. And she holds the phone up to show the audience. And she's in the camera app. You can see it on the phone that she's in the camera app. She has her camera turned on. She's not on the telephone. She's on the phone, but she's talking to nobody. I don't know how people can take these jokers and clowns seriously. But here she is, the one who's typically the front runner in the 2028 presidential primary debacle that's coming to us from the left. But I want you to listen to what she says, what she's talking about here, what she wants to do, what she thinks Democrats should do when they win, the next time they get political power. Just listen to this.
This is a moment where there are no bad ideas. A no bad idea brainstorm is what I'd like to call it. And in that no bad ideas brainstorm, no bad ideas.
She says there's no bad ideas. She's talking to Democrats here. We got to have a brainstorming session where people just start talking. So just blurt it out. Whatever you want. What do you want for free, basically? What can government do? What made up fantasy, utopian BS we can come up with and say this is going to be a priority of the Democrats when we win, when we get political power again. So she said there's no bad idea. Of course she thinks that. She's full of bad ideas. Every time she opens her mouth, I hear a bad idea, but including this. And here's some of the no bad idea brainstorm ideas that Kamala thinks Democrats should be kicking around.
About what we need to do and think about doing around the Electoral College. Mm-hmm. We talk about the idea of Supreme Court reform, which includes expanding the Supreme Court.
Yeah, putting Democrats on there.
We invite a conversation about multi-members districts. We talk about, that if we win the Senate, which we should and we will, then the Senate Judiciary Committee should have rules that they put in place so when these people come before as nominees to the Supreme Court and lie, that they are held to account and consequence. Not just that somebody goes on cable news and says they lied, but that there are rules in place to actually penalize people for lying to a Senate Judiciary Committee. That we agree that it is right to have ethics rules for Supreme Court justices.
She wants
and
ethics rules.
let's put those in place. Let's talk about statehood for Puerto Rico and D.C. Mm-hmm. These are the things I think that we've got to do. We've got to neutralize these red states from cheating. Including blue states expanding their maps. And all of this, I think, is look, we got to fight fire with fire. These folks are playing to win. We got to play to win, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so according to her crazy narrative and analysis of the world today, Republicans have started this fight. That's pure sophistry and nonsense. Democrats have redistricted for a long time. Democrats have used the Supreme Court until recently to force their political views on the American people, and the American people had no recourse. The court just declared something to be constitutional. The most obvious example was Roe versus Wade, killing babies, sacrificing babies, just so people could have, sexual pleasure. That's what it comes down to. That's so sick and disgusting. And I'm sick of people acting like there are two legitimate views to abortion. There is not, my friends. There just simply is not. It's science. It is beyond clear what is the right thing to do here. But whatever the case, they've used the Supreme Court. Now they want to pack the court. They've lost elections, enough elections to where they could not nominate enough people to the Supreme Court to keep the liberal majority. Now there's actually people on there that interpret the Constitution. So what do they want to do? They want to put more justices on there to outnumber the conservatives. That's their plan. They want to get rid of the Electoral College, which is absolute foolishness. They want to make D.C. and Puerto Rico states, my friends. I've been through this. The idea of D.C. statehood is the stupidest thing I could, for people who understand history, why D.C. exists to begin with. D.C. was carved out initially of Virginia and Maryland. Now it's just on the Maryland side. But to house the federal government, they specifically did not want it to be a state. If anything, the people of D.C. could return to citizens of Maryland. Anyway, I'm out of time here, folks. Have a great weekend. SDG.